Travel 1,200 kilometers from Gao along the Niger River, and you're in Bamako. Hello and welcome to part 2 of our special Mali from north to south. The fighting never came close to the capital, but last year's rout of the Malian army in the north triggered a coup here. Bamako, a poor city, even by African standards, but it can seem like a welcome refuge if you're from the north. We're in the Bakadi Korani neighborhood of Bamako. We're about to meet Saima Issa Maïga. She is a municipal councillor from Gao, but she has been displaced here in Bamako since the north was cut off from the south.
Bonjour. Bonjour, ça va? Ça va bien, ça va. Bienvenue chez moi.
Welcome to my home. It's here we've stayed since we left Gao. We were practically chased from a first house, and we're in this second one now.
How many are you here?
We're 24.
24?
Yeah, we were more, but now we're 24. I'm going to show you where we sleep. At night we come up and the women sleep here. You can see the mats and our mattresses. And over here is where the men sleep.
It's not all modern comforts in Bamako, but Gao was way too dangerous in those first days of occupation back in April 2012.
One evening, a municipal councillor came and said, "Do you know what happened last night?" They took the young girls of our groundskeeper from 8 p.m. until 4 a.m. They were raped. And that really scared me because I said to myself, I have young girls here. I have kids here. There they waltzed in like that at night, firing gunshots in the air, and they took these 3 young girls. Not one of them was yet 16 years old. If I see that happening to my neighbour, what am I supposed to do? Wait my turn? So before my turn came, I took the other option.
So you take the road, it's tense, but from what you told me, in a way you found more obstacles once you crossed over to the south than when you were up in the north.
Oh yes, when we first got to Bamako, it wasn't easy for us. Because at every encounter they'd say, "You need to go back. We need to boot you out of here, because you're all the same. You're all rebels. You're accomplices of the rebels." And that hurt us a lot. We were stuck between a rock and a hard place. Our brothers chased us out of Gao. We come here, in our own country, the rest of Mali, and here too, we meet all sorts of problems.
So what do you personally want to do now?
I want to go home. I'd rather be home 1,000 times over than to be here in Bamako once. Even if I had everything I needed in Bamako, I feel at ease at home.
More at ease back home than here in the capital is Hamadoun Abdoulaye, now a substitute teacher. He fled the north, first by boat, then by road.
I miss Gao. Day and night I miss it. I think of Gao.
What do you miss most?
Most of all I miss friends, family, my students, everything.
Northerners all want to go home at the end of the school year in June, but many won't. So says Ismaël Maïga, who's a long way from his usual classroom in Kidal in the far north.
If these people are taken under the wing of the relevant authorities, and when I say taken under the wing, don't just send them home. They need to be assisted for some time before they can fend for themselves.
The Malian state needs to take charge, but a lot's also expected of the international community.
Bamako can't rebuild on its own. Today we see that it's thanks to foreign aid that we've got to where we are. So foreign aid must continue to flow. The Malian state will be there as a support to make it easier for us to return to our homes.
The Malian state can't fix the crisis in the north on its own. To understand just how brittle Bamako's authority is, a trip outside the town centre. There's the misgivings between the north and the south. The Malian army's still not welcome in the far north, where French and Chadian troops patrol. And then there's the trouble here in Bamako. We're in Keti, 15 kilometers northwest of the capital, the main garrison town, where a mutiny became a coup last year. Now, since the French intervention, the Malian army's been keeping a low profile, or should we say lower profile. Many here feel that the military's still throwing its weight around, military that's back in politics after 2 decades of multi-party rule.
In early 2012, the Malian army is demoralized by successive routs at the hands of these rebels in the north. Ill-trained for real combat, rank-and-file soldiers feel that even though outgoing President Amadou Toumani Touré is himself a former general, he's not giving them enough support. Mirroring the confusion in the north, a mutiny breaks out at the capital's main barracks. Quickly, it becomes a coup.
We, the armed forces of Mali, have decided to take our responsibilities and therefore put an end to the incompetent and rejected regime of Mr. Amadou Toumani Touré.
A leader emerges, the previously unknown Amadou Sanogo, the 40-year-old army captain who's done 2 stints of training in the US, promises an end to corruption and a peaceful transition.
We will hurt no one. And as long as I remain the head of this movement, and with the help of civil society, for the good of the country, I will make sure the president faces justice in front of all the Malian people.
Bowing to international pressure, the junta hands power over to Dioncounda Traoré, the Speaker of the National Assembly. But a month later, pro-junta demonstrators are allowed to burst into his office and rough him up. He'll require weeks of treatment in France. All the while, tensions boil over between the Green Berets, who support the coup, and the Red Berets, the elite unit loyal to deposed President Touré. The clashes in Bamako flare up regularly, even as French and Chadian troops are fighting in the north.
How do you think this makes our brothers feel, the ones who have come here and are prepared to die here to save our country?
Green and Red Berets promise they've now buried the hatchet. But Malians wonder if the next president will have a free hand to rule and pursue those in the army who've abused their power. As for Sanogo, he's at barracks and keeping quiet.
It's not a point of view.
The shadow of the army, one of the topics we're now going to be discussing with Adam Thiam, columnist for the newspaper Le Républicain and an advisor to the interim president of Mali. Is the army going to stay in barracks now?
The army is still in the barracks. I mean, we are far from the situation which was created a year ago.
That period is gone, but we see, for instance, that there's a journalist who's currently going on trial for talking about alleged misappropriation of funds by the coup leader.
Yes, not only this case of journalists, which is, I mean, to tell the truth, the confirmation that, I mean, the militaries are still influential in Mali. You also had the case of the former prime minister who was just sacked by the military. I mean, there is no doubt that, I mean, Kati, as we say, is not dead, but Kati has lost, I mean, the bulk of his influence, and I think that we are progressively going towards, I mean, full constitutional order.
Going towards full constitutional order, but for years in the rest of the world, we cited Mali as the donor-darling example. And
yes, but that was the problems of the donors, and not the problem of Mali. As a journalist, I've been always denouncing I mean, this kind of judgment, because, I mean, we knew we had no state, we knew we had no press. How could you have a democracy where, I mean, the state press has nothing to say? I mean, and this is still the case, and it will be the case in the next 10 years, where national television will not criticize the president, will not publish a single article on corruption. I mean, it is like this in Mali, it is like this in most African countries. I mean, we should depart from the theory that, I mean, democracy is free press. No, democracy is, the liberation of all media, including the state-funded media.
Including state-funded media. And right now, we're in a process where the international community is saying, let's have the French in particular, are saying, let's have an election in July. What will elections do? Will they help solve the problem, or will they contribute to the problem?
No, I think the election will not necessarily solve the problem, but what is sure is that the transition cannot solve, I mean, the problems of the Malian state right now, because, I mean, you have seen how quickly the state of Mali has collapsed. And that is why you need an elected and more legitimate regime.
Okay, so let me ask you on that.
Yeah.
We know that the European Union and the French and a lot of people are going to train the military so that the military can be back up on its feet and regain the confidence of the people. Should there be outside help for training the civil administration, or is that a problem that the Malians themselves have to solve?
Okay, I mean, I don't think that the training of army is necessary to have a good army. But, I mean, the problem of Mali is not just the lack of training of the army. It's, I mean, the corruption of the global system. I mean, it is, I mean, the nature of insecurity that the army has to deal with, because, I mean, you can have a very well-trained army and lose your war against jihadists. I mean, this is, and if they are doing, I mean, this training in view of the northern part of the country, training the army is not enough. We also have to develop, I mean, seriously, the north of the country, because the biggest ally for the jihadists are the local population, and they have no other solution than to be the ally. They have never seen a teacher in their life. They have never seen a doctor, and they are very poor, and the Al-Qaeda.
Is there a blueprint in the works right now to develop the north?
I hope so. I'm not hearing it very clearly. For me, there is no doubt that, I mean, people are very conscious on that. I mean, soldiers are not enough, I mean, to bring peace in the north of the country. They have to bring development too.
Okay, so the war has been won. The peace, you're optimistic that it can be won. Adam Thiam, I want to thank you for welcoming us here, and best of luck with your news website. We're now going to go back across the Niger River to the campus of the university and speak to the next generation. We're now inside the courtyard of the School of Higher Learning with two final-year English students. Abdraman Kone, how are you?
I'm fine, you?
All right. Also with us is Bagigi Diko. Right. First of all, do you guys think that we're going to be going to elections in July as planned?
In July, I think the election cannot take place as long as this problem of insecurity still remains on the north of our country. We need, first of all, to bring the peace, the security. The population need the return of the peace, first of all.
So the country's not ready yet?
The country need the return of the democracy. Now that there is I can say, a lawful president, I think the army can, be a part of all the political actions. Of course, they did a good job. They committed a coup. It was necessary because the way...
The coup is necessary?
It was necessary. I can say any coup is good, but that coup was necessary.
Abdraman, going forward now,
yes.
Are you personally, you guys are final year students, you're going to be teaching next year. Are you optimistic for the future of your country?
Personally, I'm pessimistic because all the students who finish their studies, they don't have jobs, they still stay at home depending on their parents. And this is one thing. The other thing is that we don't have a real army. So without any good army, we cannot have any good democracy.
Do you share Abdrahman's skepticism?
No, I don't share at all his point of view about that because I can say with, of course, the support of outside countries and with, of course, the coming of the military from America, from I don't know where else, for the training of our own military, I think this is something positive and it will contribute at least to maintain the security in our country.
Can Malians do it on their own, or will they need that outside help for a long time?
For a long time, but it depends on the training of our military, because for the time being,
That's the key.
That's the key.
All right, one final question for you guys. If you guys are you've passed your exams, obviously, at the end of the year. Yes. You're stationed in the north. Do you guys go?
It doesn't matter to me to go or to stay here. I need to have a job and live my life correctly. This is what I need. Wherever they will send me, I don't mind, you see.
As far as I'm concerned, I really need the job, but I don't want to put my life in the danger. I need to make sure that, of course, there is stability on the north, of course, to go.
Before you can go.
Yeah, before I can go.
Reunifying the North and the South, the people and their army, citizens and their politicians, those are the daunting challenges that the next occupant of the presidential palace faces, a presidential palace that still bears the scars of the crisis. Mali, already one of the poorest countries in Africa, will long be dependent on France and its allies for aid and security. But all here agree a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. This is Mali's big chance at reconciliation, true reconciliation, unfinished since independence in 1960. And the Malians all say it's only they themselves who can do it. Thanks for watching this special edition, Mali from North to South. And stay with us. The news continues on France 24 and France24.com.